Welcome. It's your number one talk station, 95.1 Nigeria Info. And it's time to get on the couch tonight with Somi. And I'm excited to be back here doing this with my amazing therapist, my amazing coach, Maisie. He's been away because I have been away. So just in case you've missed him and you're holding some sort of grouse against me, please forgive me. I'm responsible for that. But it's good to have him back here with us this evening on the couch. And we'll have a quite rather interesting conversation to get into. Just so that you don't miss out on any of it, make sure that you join us because we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Go to Nigeria Info Abuja to join myself and my guest here as we delve into self-awareness and mastering it so that you can get a handle of your relationships. We've got quite a number of people sending messages about the difficulties that they're having in their relationships. And so we thought to approach this from what would this be now, a holistic point of view? Coach Maisie, would that be the right thing to say? Coach Maisie, are you there?
Okay, I think I didn't hear that thing you said.
There we go.
Asking me something.
Yeah, I said, we've had quite a number of people sending messages talking about the difficulties that they're experiencing in their relationships. And, before I went on to cover for SWAT, we started to touch on some of those things and how to work around it. But today we're taking a holistic view and looking at the first thing you need to get now for you to be able to have a successful relationship? Self-awareness. Is that it?
Oh yes.
Fantastic. So I'm just going to let us get straight into it. Remember to join us on Facebook and YouTube where we're streaming live. Coach Maisie is here with us and let's get started. Self-awareness and mastering it in relationships. Let's go, Coach Maisie. What is this big grammar that we're calling self-awareness?
Well, thank you very much, and it's so good to be back. I've missed you. I've missed everyone on the show.
Yes.
It's just a refreshing time to hang out and discuss matters of heart and matters of life. So that thing we have always said about self-discovery, self-awareness. I can imagine some people thinking to themselves, like, what's the big deal? What's there to know again in myself? I already know myself, like, I'm an adult, hello.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you, there is a whole lot to unravel there. And to say the truth, in as much as we will do as much as we can in this session, it doesn't suffice at all. We may just be scratching the surface, depending on how the conversation goes. First of all, let's break down the word self and then awareness. The word awareness is from the word being aware, to know, to have knowledge about, to be informed about. All right. So we're talking about, in this case, being informed about yourself. Okay. Having sufficient, as it were, knowledge about yourself, knowledge that is enough to instruct your behavior, knowledge that is enough to instruct your patterns, to help you change certain behavior, adjust in certain times based on knowledge, not just based on reflex or response to stimuli, right? But this time based on information. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're talking about. It's just that this time it's about you. And what's the big deal? How does it affect relationship? Oh, wow. The truth is, relationship is an emotional, we're talking for emphasis, romantic relationships, as it were, marital relationships, or relationships that have to do with love and feelings and affection, So it's an emotional affair. It's a big emotional affair. So that means that if you don't know about the things that affect your emotions in the way that they do, if you don't know about the factors that are responsible for how you process information, why you behave in certain ways, why you do certain things that are different from the way other people do them, why you would rather do A than B in certain situations, if you are not aware of the underlying reasons why you behave like that, then trust me, you will be affected by subconscious factors that you're not even aware of. Let me see if I can break that down. So basically, um, you've heard people say stuff like, "That's just how I am," you know, and then sometimes they're saying it with reference to, um, for example, hot temper. Me, I know myself. Oh, I have very short fuse. If you try me, I will just, if you say one, I'll give you 10. Perhaps you see people on social media sometimes trying to, put out a disclaimer, a warning for anybody who wants to drag them. They tell you, let me just tell you, me, I have bad mouth. If you think you can cross, me, I can cross extra. If you drop one, I will drop 10. I'll drop 100. I'll go after you. I'll finish your father, your mother, your generation. You see, and they say these things like a thing of pride. What they don't really understand is that there is a subconscious force or conditioning or factor that is responsible for that behavior. These are the same people that under certain conditions, they'll tell you, no, I'm a very person. Mind my business. So you so I mean, I will follow you if you come after me like this and like that. Now, the truth is, why that sounds like somebody who is very aware of themselves. The essence of self-awareness is to be able to regulate your behavior towards others, all right, in an empowering way. Let me just put it like that, in a positive way.
Okay, let's break that down within the context of a romantic relationship. What does that do? The way you've defined it just now, let's redefine that in the context of a romantic relationship.
Okay. Yeah, so you see, the thing about romantic relationships, like I was saying at the beginning, it has to do with your emotions. All right? And anything that has to do with your emotions is very sensitive. Do you know that there are people who have hurt their partners in the name of love?
Love in quotes.
What they were doing is
love in quotes.
Yeah, in quotes. Do you understand? Meanwhile, what they were actually doing was very toxic and very negatively impacting on that person. But they thought that they knew exactly what they were doing per time, and this was how they could, express that love. So, for example, there are people who believe that because I love you, I should control your life. I should know your every step, every breath you breathe in. I have to scrutinize, I have to approve, I have to be aware, and they go ahead choking their partners. Those people can't have a life anymore. They can't have other friends. They can't interact freely anymore because they always have to explain their actions. You see, now somebody will tell you, this guy is so into his girlfriend, or this girl is so into her boyfriend. That's why she doesn't give him space. No, that thing is not love. You see, but if you don't know it, then you will continue being pushed by that subconscious force, and it's subconscious because actually you don't even really know why you're doing what you're doing.
Because you're not self-aware.
Exactly. Until you now engage in this process of digging deep into your inner being, all right, and finding out what is responsible for the way you act and the way you process information and the way you interpret life and the way you respond to other people. The trouble there is that sometimes many people are not able to have these conversations themselves, and that's why I would always exalt the place of therapy. Talk to a therapist, consult, because it's a process of digging in. It's a process of interrogation. By interrogation, I mean questioning, basically, certain experiences you have had in your life, at different times, and she's showing you the relationship of how those experiences now impact on your responses to people or reactions, in some cases, to people. You see? So, yeah, that's an example of how self-awareness is really big in romantic relationships, right? And there's something I always tell people that, You can only share with others out of the content of your own soul. Let me say that again. You can only share with others out of the content of your own soul. All right. Now, if what comes out of you is always offensive and you think it is just cool, then there is a problem. That is why there is the need for self-awareness, because there are so many things that people think are just okay that in actual sense are not okay. There are many things people think this is how it is done, this is the standard, this is the way life is. But what they don't know is that they are acting out the subconscious imprints, all right, and programmings of their upbringing, their environment, and the experiences that they have had in their lives. Now, those things impact people in more ways than they know. All right. So when I'm saying you can only share out of others, you can only share with others out of the content of your soul, right? If the content of your soul is something that has been negatively impacted, but because that is all you know, you think this is normal. Okay, maybe I'm speaking too much of theory. Let me make it a bit more practical.
Okay. I mean, I had my questions and I was going to come, but you got there before me, so go ahead.
Okay, good. So let me make it a bit more practical. You see, there are certain things we got used to as children growing up. Let me just use the example of upbringing. There are so many things like this. Let me use the example of upbringing. There are some things we got comfortable with, and we thought that this is how life is. This is how normal is. By the way, let me just establish here. You know, the first university of life everyone experienced and everyone went through was their home.
Yep.
Their upbringing, their parents, their siblings, their primary caregivers, wherever they grew up. That was their first university of life. That was the first place where this programming we're talking about started happening subconsciously in your mind. Because in that place, you were told that when you wake up every morning, this is how we greet here. This is how you relate to an elder. This is how you cook. This is what we eat. We don't eat that, or we eat this. This is how we behave. This is how we respond. Now, unknown to you, whether you were literally taught the way I'm saying it now, or you just learned it by observation and by going with the flow, that is what we mean by subconscious programming. All right? And until something else comes to interrogate that idea, left to you, that is all you know. That is how life is. So like I was saying, I said I want to give some examples of some things that are not quite normal, that people think are normal. How many of you grew up in homes where the only way to correct children was to beat the living daylight out of them? Some of you, when your parents are shouting at you, the neighbors across the road, we hear exactly what is going on in the house. For some, the way they were rebuked or corrected was with, what we call koboko, and some of them are spiked. And when they flog you, blood must come out from your body. You see, now, when you look back at your life, you say, if not for those training, I would not have been a better person, right? But what's happening is that you're justifying that because of how you have eventually turned out to be, right? But what you don't know is that those actions in themselves were quite dysfunctional. There were other ways you could have been raised. All right?
Coach Maisie, let me just come in there, because some people will counter this with the spare the rod and spoil the child narrative. So
I just started.
So the discipline in itself was not the problem. It is the manner in which it was deployed. Is that? I'm just trying to understand that example that you gave now. Yeah.
Oh yes. Okay. So let me put some more context to the example that was given. Your network seems to be frozen.
Oh, I'm with you. Go ahead. I'm with you. Go ahead.
Okay, so let me put some more context to what I was saying, right? Of course, I'm not downplaying the need for discipline, but people need to know that there is a difference between discipline and punishment. In discipline, you are you are teaching, as it were, all right, and you're letting people know that there is a goal, there is a big picture, And then you need to do this to be able to achieve that. All right. Many times punishment comes as consequence. Oh, you have done this, I will deal with you, I want to teach you a lesson, right? Now, the challenge there is that many times, you see, the context I was speaking about when I was talking about beating and all of that, yelling, many times, look at the age of the people that are experiencing all of this. Do you know that there are people who spank the living daylight out of their infants and toddlers? A 7-month-old baby is doing what he knows how to do: cry, crawl around, scatter the house. And then you come shouting at that child, yelling at that. What exactly are you expecting? Do you even think the person understands what you're saying? The answer is no. But all they are seeing is an adult who doesn't want them around. You see, children at that very infant stage are very sensitive to the environment. They come into the world asking the question of, can I trust this new place? While they were in the womb, it was a secure environment. Everything was controlled, everything was regulated. Now they've been exposed to a whole new world. The first thing in their hearts is, in their little hearts, is, can I trust this new environment? Who are these people? Will they be kind to me? All right? And then all that they see is that this person just keeps yelling, keeps kicking, keeps hitting, keeps speaking to me in a kind of way. What have I possibly done to offend this person? So I'm not wanted here. You see, and then that behavior goes on from infancy through, they become toddlers, and then they become baby children. All they have known is that this person doesn't quite like me. So at the slightest opportunity, they yell at me. They have not yet been able to interpret that you are trying to save them from danger, perhaps, that you're trying to stop them from doing something hurtful to themselves. So you see, you have a good intention, but what you haven't learned is the right way to communicate it or to direct it so that it is meaningful to that child. At the end of the day, those are the kind of things I'm talking about that I'm saying are dysfunctional, because sometimes from childhood, some people start becoming repressive. They start withdrawing, you see, because of the vibes they are receiving from their immediate environment. A child is crying and you shout them down, shut up, keep quiet, you beat them to keep, what you're teaching that child is that they should not express their emotions. They should not be outspoken, because every time they try to express themselves, it comes with a hurt. Okay, now this same child grows up many years later and is not able to respond to love. You see, there are people who, they like you, you guys are okay. The moment it starts becoming like a relationship, they start pulling back. This is the person who has been taught from childhood not to be expressive. Not to receive. They don't even know what love is, so they don't know how to receive it. Talk less of give it. You see? So that's just an example around the discipline side. I mean, there are so many other areas.
Let's touch on one more. Yeah.
You want to say something?
I said, no, I was saying let's touch on another example. Let's look at another area. Yeah.
What about those children who never knew what it was to experience affection from their parents? Oh, let me put it better. They were never around. They were very successful career people. So they're always traveling around the world, making all the money. They employed a lot of nannies in the house and uncles and aunties, but not the parents, right? And then I remember something that has happened repeatedly in my life, where maybe I'm with a number of friends and I go home to see my parents, and in my house we hug. We're big on hug. We hug, man.
That's
So I see my dad and I'm like, hey, and then we share a hug. And some of my guys are looking like, what? You hug your papa? Like, I mean, this has happened severally. One of them told me at one time, my father can never hug. Like, emphatically. Like, you're hugging your dad. How? So imagine people who have grown like that without that level of affection from the home front first. And then tomorrow you wonder why this guy is hostile to babes.
As a matter of fact, I want to weigh in on that just a little bit. I heard just this point that you have shared just reminded me of a particular instance. I remember a friend of mine, a lady, was sharing with me about how uncomfortable she felt the first time her mother told her, I love you. Like, she had grown up I mean, this is a mother that was even in the house. You had to stay at home mom. She was working at first, and then she came back and decided to be able to, decided she was going to stay at home and, raise the children. So the mom was constantly there, but there was never that affection per se. They do something right and they don't get commendation for it. They do something wrong and that's it. It's always the wrong things that you're always getting, attention for, and it was always so bad. And so she grew up, and then as a relatively how do I call it now? Maybe sometime in her 20s, for the first time, my mother says, "I love you," and she was so uncomfortable. She was like, what's this? Yeah. Like, it was so strange for her. I just wanted to share that, when you mentioned that instance of yours.
Exactly. And now the reason that was strange was because at the period of her life, when she needed that validation, that affection, that acceptance, that comfort, she didn't get it then. She didn't get it. So, you see, she's already been programmed to believe that I am not loved by these people. I am not wanted. I am not appreciated. Right? And then, so many years later, your mom, who has always been hostile to you, who made you feel like your opinion never mattered, who made you feel like you didn't know what you were doing, who made you feel like you're just a pain, now tells you, I love you. How do you want to relate the two feelings?
And the funny thing,
she doesn't trust that word.
Yeah, and the funny thing, in some instances, it's not like, so I think a lot of us in that age range grew up understanding the love of a parent to be as long as they provided for you, as long as you have food, as long as you have food to eat, as long as they are paying for your school fees. You saw that as the form of a parent's love. You didn't know to ask for anything else. There was some sort of a vacuum you feel. I mean, some people did. I don't know about every other person, but some people will feel some sort of a vacuum, but they can't quite put it into words what exactly is missing. But they have grown up in this environment thinking, oh, my father is paying my school fees, so he loves me. My mother is disciplining me, so she loves me. There's a form of tough love, I think. If there's any such, please, there's such a thing as tough love. Like, is that an actual term that we can use? Because I think that's what a lot of people grew up, just thinking, oh, it's tough love and it's good for me. Because I'm one of those people, and I must say this, I'm one of those people who later on in life, sat down and told myself one day, I said, thank God for the kind of training. Thank God for the kind of training that I got. If not, I would have been haywire. I'm one of those people who thought, even though I wasn't getting it all lovey-dovey, I mean, the thing you mentioned about your friend, saying, oh, you hug your dad, some of us probably didn't start hugging our parents until we were much older. And it was like, Christian brother, it's not like hug, like, get the full satisfaction and everything. A lot of us didn't get that. I mean, if you did, good for you. But we grew up thinking what we are getting is the love that we're supposed to be getting from her. So it wasn't even like a dysfunctional sort of thing. Are you saying that even people that grew up feeling that way somehow were in some sort of a dysfunction?
So, yeah, I don't that's troubling. That's troubling to some people to hear, right? But let me tell you why eventually it's dysfunctional. It's only dysfunctional to the extent that it later begins to impact on your future relationships. Do you get that now?
Yes, I do.
You see, it is justified in the individual because, they turned out to be very great, very disciplined, very serious-minded. Oh, that was fine. But then, what about their relationship with others, especially their significant other? Do you see now? So, because that is the way they have been programmed to receive life, many times they give off the same energy and their partner may not be having it. You see? So something that is just normal and just okay by you is now offensive to someone, and somebody who, as a matter of fact, is supposed to get all of the emotional strength and affection from you. So let me say something about what you said about the fact that growing up, what many people knew as love was parents being there to provide, give you food to eat, pay your school fees, you know. You see, that is the thing that a lot of people don't know. The human being is an emotional and a relational being. What is more important to that child, to that baby, right, is contact, support, comfort, soothing, right? Those are the things that develop that child emotionally. So if you just provide food and then there is no proper bonding, there's no contact. Now, do you know an experiment was actually carried out? Newborn babies were separated, some were kept, they're separated basically, and then one set, they would always come to them, carry them, play with them, nurse them, and do all that, and the other set were just left alone. Oh my God, the difference was very clear. First, even in their bodily health, some of the other babies who were not physically touched, some did not even survive. Oh yeah, the ones who survived were pale and sickly. You see, so that tells you the place of that touch. Another experiment showed how that, children who were newly born and separated, some were crying, and then there are others who they observed over time, they didn't used to cry much, they just cry a bit and keep quiet. Now, what happened? Those ones who didn't used to cry a lot were the ones who, when they cried initially, they were left alone. No one came to nurse them, no one came to attend to them, While the ones who were crying more regularly were the ones that once they cry, oh, somebody comes, oh, what's happening? Maybe it's hunger, oh, maybe it's itchy, or maybe he needs to be turned around, or maybe he's been lying this. Do you understand? Yeah. So the ones who were always attended to were more expressive. Every time they needed someone to come around, they would cry and somebody would come and talk to them. The ones who were not being attended to had told themselves that, okay, there's nothing that my crying really does for me. Every time I cry, nobody comes. I just have to manage this discomfort and, I'll be fine. Now, what happens? These two people grow up into adulthood. The one who was not attended to when they were crying grows up to understand the world as a place where you just have to sort yourself out. Nobody really loves you. Nobody really cares about you. So, man, all about for himself. Oh, me, I look out for myself. I don't have time for anybody until I'm, Now, don't forget these people are going to fall in love later. This thing they call love. They're going to fall in love later. And then the other one who grew up, receiving attention, receiving care, knows that there's such a thing as interdependence. There's such a thing as emotional connections. The other one does not know it. So those are the kind of people who, by the time you start getting close to them, they're pushing you off. You tell the girl, I love you, and she's wondering what's wrong with this one. Because for them, the only times people came close to them, people needed something from them. So the next other person is coming to say, hey, I like you, I'm interested in you. They're wondering, okay, so what this time? Those are the people who you will find it very difficult that they are emotionally available or opening up themselves to, to really nurture a proper relationship. It's a big struggle. Right? Okay. Now, funny enough, I don't even think I've gotten into some of the things that, we'll talk self-awareness normally. You want to hear?
Oh dear. Okay, so let's backtrack. Right? Let's backtrack a bit. What got us to this point? We're looking at behaviors that some of us grew up thinking were normal, but are not actually normal, and why, things that led to some of those things. Okay, so it's okay. We're on course. Clearly, it's not looking like we're going to exhaust self-awareness today, and that'll be okay. We'll get back into it in the coming Tuesdays. But let's look at so we've seen some examples, right, of behaviors that are not normal, that we grew up thinking are normal. At what point are people usually triggered to start to seek to become more self-aware? We know relationships are a major catalyst for that, but are there any other things that happen in life that can trigger one? So you know that you're not just doing it because, you're getting into a relationship and so you need to get your house in order and all. Are there certain things that would trigger people to start to understand that they need to become more self-aware and then start digging into that?
Okay, I didn't hear the last part, please.
Okay, I said, what are the things that would trigger people to start to become more self-aware outside of relationships? Because I mean, it's not something that should start happening when you're in a relationship. For people who have been able to get to that point before they start to become more self-aware, that's wonderful for them. But are there major things that would trigger one, or is it just this journey that you just embark on? I'm seeing here that when one is looking at self-awareness, they want to be able to focus on themselves and how their actions, thoughts, and emotions do or do not align with internal standards. So if I go by that definition, it means that it's a journey one needs to undertake for themselves first and foremost, before there's a relationship thing. So my question again is, are there certain triggers that people usually encounter before they start to seek for self-awareness, or is it just a journey that one just embarks on?
Okay, very good question. Thank you there. So first of all, biologically, with growth, the more the child begins to interact with their environment, all right, self-awareness is already being formed.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it said that at ages 7 to 9, like everything that the child needs to know has already been imprinted, as it were, has been programmed already in their minds, right?
Yeah.
If they have healthy emotional relationships, what we call healthy attachments or secure attachments, as at that time, it's already fully formed and they're already engaging the world like that, right? If they have insecure attachments or unhealthy emotional connections, at that age of 7, they are already manifesting it, right? So biologically first, with growth, and with interaction with the humans and their environment, people begin to become more self-aware, all right?
Okay.
But particularly when they start getting into teenage, right? That is where the real sense of individuality, starts coming up, especially because a lot is going on in their bodies now. And then why is that the case? Because most times before that time, I mean, they've still been living with their parents. As much as possible, they've still had to be obeying instructions. They've had to be told what to do. Parents go to market and buy clothes for you, But just imagine a teenager now, the mother goes and say, I bought you this clothes. They're going to be like, hey, man, what's the meaning of that? Like, hey, I can't wear that, Like, you don't know what's up, right? So at that stage, they're beginning to detach from dependence on parents or primary caregivers to now recline towards their peers. You see?
Yeah.
So that's where the real engagement of self-awareness really starts happening. Now, besides this biological process I've spoken about, you see, there are experiences that people have that can also push them, if I should use that word, to some kind of self-awareness. So, for example, you see a child who maybe lost the father while he was just 5 years old, and then he's the first son. Automatically, he's already been saddled with the burden of supporting his mother and looking after his younger ones. You see, automatically, there's already a lot of pressure on that guy to be a big boy, to be, to
man up. To man up.
You see, exactly, to man up, right? Yeah, those are some things that could also affect. Or some people, maybe the ladies also, something happened, the mom is not maybe feeling well and she has to nurse the mother and cook and take care of daddy and take care of the house and take care of every other person. You see, those activities are already forcing adulthood on that child. All right? That kind of person would have gathered a lot more sense and maturity than her typical mates. Because life has placed a heavy demand on her irrespective of her age. So yes, those are some external factors. But besides that, biologically, just by growing up, people get to that stage where it begins to dawn on them that, oh, I think I look cool. And that starts happening from teenage. I think I look cool. My voice sounds really great. People like me. When I walk into the room, people notice me. it begins to mean something to you, right? You go out with your friends, and then everybody said hi to your friends and didn't quite say hi to you, and it begins to mean something to you. You're wondering, they don't like me, I'm not beautiful enough. You see, all of that starts, coming back to you as serious feedback. But you see, even all that, to a very large extent, derives from what happened to you when you were a child. So if from childhood, people loved you, people hugged you, people told you you're special, oh, you're lovely, oh, you're such a wonderful child, oh, I just want to, people showered you with so much love. When you go out there as a teenager and, it's like people don't even see you, like they're neglecting you. Yeah, you'll feel bad, but there's still a whole lot of, there's a full dose of love where you're coming from. And all you need to do is pick up your phone and call daddy or mommy or siblings or anybody who grew up in that healthy emotional environment. And before you know, you're pumped up again. You know that, oh, I'm loved. Well, if you guys don't see my value, that's your loss, but people love me somewhere. Now think about that child who never ever had that backup and then grows up, nobody loves you at home. Now you're hanging out with friends and they make you feel like, hey, you're not in our level. Like you're not tush enough. You don't measure up. And this is happening to you at teenage. That person becomes more repressed, more withdrawn, all right, and begins to say to themselves, well, nobody likes me, I have to sort out myself. Now, these are some of the things that make people think when they are now 25, like, I know myself, me, I don't go out, I don't like going to places, I like to just be by myself. No, you don't know yourself. Something happened to you. Do you understand? In real life, you would have loved to go to those places. You would have loved to be expressive. You would really have loved to. But you have been programmed subconsciously to think that you are just a quiet and reserved person. Or you see, there's some people that, for example, in a classroom, no matter how you ask questions, they would not raise up their hands to answer. Even when you call them, they would volunteer someone else. Why? Because they never were told that their voice mattered. For example, those are the kind of people where every time they try to speak, they were hushed. They try to say something, you tell them, see, what kind of stupid question is that one? You see? And you see, children from age 3, they start asking you manner of questions. Why is the sky up? Why is water? Like, they start asking you manner of things. And then you get tired as a parent, hey, shut up. You're teaching that child that they should not be vocal, that they should not ask questions. All right? Now, they grow up being withdrawn. They grow up not having confidence in themselves. And then they think that this is just how I am. I hope you get the direction I'm coming from.
Yes, I do.
When I say a lot of people think that the way they are is the way they really are. No, it's something that have made you like that. You can actually be sweeter than you are. You can actually be more graceful than you currently are. You see, but you have been hardwired through those experiences in your upbringing, in the environment where you were. You've been so hardwired now to think that this is how I am.
Okay.
Now, the danger there is that you would want the rest of the world to accept you the way you are, especially your significant other. Not knowing that this thing that is your normal is entirely strange to this other individual.
And even it's not really your normal, right?
And it's not even your real normal.
It's not your normal.
You see?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've heard people say things like, this one is on social media a lot. In my family, we're very family oriented. Everyone looks out for each other. But my husband or my wife, as the case may be, she's just to herself. She doesn't want to do family hangouts. My family, every Christmas we all come together, but she doesn't want us to travel to the village or maybe to hang out with family. Our family values are just different. That's what is responsible for those kind of things. Because somehow from the beginning, someone has been raised in a way that makes them think, what's the big deal with all this family thing? It's alien to them. Think of people who grew up in homes where even though they had siblings, there was no sibling relationship.
Yeah.
Because, parents are very busy people. So what they did for you was to put you in boarding school. So when this one is going to boarding school, the other one is, maybe when it's holiday, The bigger one is off to go and chill with some friends or cousins in another place. The younger one is left with daddy or mommy. Somehow they never had time to experience life together as a family.
Or even in some cases, yeah, or even in some cases with the sibling thing, and I've seen this on at least one or two occasions where there is a rivalry that is born from the parents' treatment over, a parent's favoritism of one over the other, and it just never goes away. There is also that one, and there have been cases where some parents, I don't know what drives that philosophy or that narrative sometimes, but they literally pit the children against each other.
Oh yeah.
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 Just wanted to toss that in regarding, sibling relationships and how that also affects us.
You see that these things in themselves, right, they're not normal. They're dysfunctional. Because ultimately it affects how those people relate with themselves and with other people.
Mm.
You see, there are so many examples that we could give, really, of things that were just normal. Okay, a child pees on the bed, a baby,
yeah,
or maybe a baby, and then you start naming and shaming. PC, this one, that one. You can't even, and they are growing up with shame, knowing that when I miss it, when I misbehave, I am called names, I am shamed. It starts to affect their self-esteem, you see, and then maybe for a while they didn't. You will not hear them or you will not praise them. But the minute by mistake, one day you just see the bed is wet again, you unleash. You are damaging that child. So you see, let it not look like I'm lashing out at parents. You're right. The target is not the parents, right? The target is you, the person listening to me, right? Let's excuse them and say they didn't know better. In fact, let me prove to you why this thing is a dysfunction again. With this example I'm giving. Okay. Check out those parents. How were they raised?
Cool. I was just going to say, that line you put out about you can only give to somebody from your soul. How did you put it? There was another. Say. Let me hear how you put it, and then I'll go ahead. I
said you can only share with others out of the content of your own soul.
That's right. So as you were saying that in my head, I was also thinking you cannot give what you don't have, and I believe some people have grown up using that line as the way to excuse how they were brought up, right? Say, okay, it's a function of how even my parents were raised, right? So if they didn't get that affection, they wouldn't know to give it. If they were raised on the notion that the way I love you is if I put food on your table and I pay your way through. I know a particular parent that would say, as long as I paid your way up to tertiary education. So they've even excused themselves from some other extended forms of learning. But to them, they have done that. And it's basically a case of you can't give what you don't have, really. Okay. There's so much to still say regarding this conversation. But just in case you wanted to contribute, wanted to ask questions, maybe from all of the things that have been said here by a therapist, you are hearing things in yourself and you're seeing how it's played out in your relationship and you want to get some answers to any questions or anything you have, you can call in now, okay? Or you can send in messages. If you want to call, it's 07 00951 0000 and 08095974869. On WhatsApp, it's 08099930137. You can send in your messages there or you can call in. We're dealing with mastery of self-awareness and why it's important and how it helps you in relationships. Let's take some calls. Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome. Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Just tuning in for the first time, and quite interesting. It's just I actually see attack. Yeah. So I I don't even know what to say. I just feel like hearing this, it's
Hello? Hello? Stay with me. Don't
so
go. I hear you there. Okay,
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. I feel like I need a therapist right now. I don't have the money to. So I'm turning 25 next month. So it's I don't know. So I can't even get in a relationship. I just don't know. I just feel scared. I'm just scared of the unknown. I don't know what I'm scared of. I just don't know. I just feel like, okay, I'm going to mess up. I'm not going to have a perfect life. Like, it's a whole lot of things in my head. Worry about so much and reacting to my thoughts. I can't even explain it. So I had a story upbringing that really affected me in my relationship with people. I don't know, it's a long thing, but I'm quite happy to be participating this evening.
Okay. All right. I'm. Oh dear. Okay. I'm sure you're still listening. Please keep listening if you are. All right. First and foremost, I'm glad that Coach is here. And you heard what she said. She said she needs a therapist, and she can't afford it, and that's why we have Coach here. I mean, you're able to at least get the foundational matters off your chest, and then see how we can weigh in on it, and then maybe consider next steps from there. All right. So, Coach, as she says, she's been having difficulty getting into a relationship, and a lot of what we've discussed here sort of like helped her see that, okay, perhaps it's from her upbringing and all of that. And I'm going to let you weigh in on that. But I see my phone line buzzing, so let me see if we can take all the calls at once and then have you weigh in on the issues. Hello.
That's good.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Somi. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, a pleasure.
All right. So your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, this is Wise Man calling from Jabi.
Welcome, Wise Man. Go ahead.
Thank you. My regards to your guest there.
Thank you so much. Coach can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think, honestly speaking, I don't know where to start from. But the truth is, there are a lot of things that I have discovered that makes the human being the person. Okay?
Okay.
One of them is this aspect of self-awareness or self-discovery. The other one, too, that I feel will be important is emotional intelligence. Another area, again, is mental health. And then, if one wants to bring in religion, you are also looking at some religion and the tenets. So I don't want to bore us with all of this. But then, these things are very important and key to the individual. It's only when you are self-aware that you can relate with people, relate with other persons well in terms of, relationship at workplace, relationship in terms of if we're planning to get married and so on. And then the same thing, with, relationship across board. Now that people are angry because of the economy and all of that, emotional intelligence, fantastic. Self-awareness is the only thing that can make you, you get to discover later, like we're going on, to know who you are and how to relate with others and get an excellent story. I don't know, the network. Are you with me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
So I won't want to go on and on, but then I will, if it's going to come up every Tuesday, even if it takes me to be awake throughout the night, I love developing myself. And I also want to see how I manage to get in contact with, your guest.
Okay.
The other lady who was handling the night show before you left, there was this family who was there talking about family, and all of that. There's quite a lot we don't know, we don't understand. We just exist. We just exist, and young people just go into relationship, not knowing what relationship is all about.
Mm-hmm.
What is the essence of a relationship? They don't know. What is the essence of being? They don't know. What's your love language? You don't know. What is it that, they don't know anything, but they are just into relationship. So I thank you so very much for bringing him, and I love the way you're breaking it down. But my only fear is that it will take us 1 year to get there from the way we are going.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Wise Man. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for calling in to share. Don't worry, it's not going to take us a year, I promise you. But it's so important that we get into all of the aspects of it as much as possible. We'll do what we can to manage it. All right, Coach Maisie, over to you. We had Wise Man call in to share his thoughts then. We also had the lady that called in earlier on. So let's quickly... dear. Okay. I have one more call. So we're going to do this, right? I'm going to take this one more call, and then we're going to go on a break. And when we come back, we'll take your reactions to all of the calls. Is that okay, Coach? Yes. Okay, Coach agrees. Let's do this. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
What's your name and where are you calling from, please?
Yeah, this is Mr. Henry calling from 11.
Mr. Henry, good to have you here. I have to go on a break in less than 2 minutes, so please make it brief. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Mr. Henry, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. I think you should be started. My name is James. What is her name? This is the first time I'm listening to left. I was missing black, what do you call that, black coffee.
Yes.
Yeah. I really enjoy the program. I was about sleeping when I came across the voting. You see this, the way some of our parents got it wrong. Really, like, I have a family that, because of this, I'm just sharing an experience.
Okay.
So later, the way he brought those children up, he was trying to later have their attention. He was unable to get their attention because of the way he was so harsh when they were putting up. But later, I'm telling you, when he entered Palo, they grew up, they were all married. But when since that fear was still on those children, I mean, everybody was married, but when the father is around, they do things with the mother, but when the father is around, you could see that everybody will scatter and go away. Because of the upbringing, the way he was thinking, he's a man, let me do it the man way. Well, surprised that thing was just entering my mind and saying, you see, he has that man is late today.
Wow.
But he brings his children together, sit down and talk to them. When he starts between everybody will just be walking away, one after the other.
Okay.
So that's just what I really enjoy the program.
Thank you.
The point I'm trying to make.
Oh dear, and we lost him just as he was trying to make his point. But thank you so much for listening in, and we're glad that it's resonating with some of you. Coach Maisie, thank you. I hope you've taken note of all the calls and contributions. We have to go on a quick break now, and the live stream is ending, unfortunately, but I promise you the conversation continues on 95.1 Nigeria Info. So just in case, just switch it over to your app or tune into your radio, and we will be taking Coach Maisie's responses and more questions and contributions from you when we get back. It's 95.1 Nigeria Info. We're on the couch, and we get back here after this break. Stay with us.
Wake up to us. Go to bed with us. All day and through the night on your Let's Talk station. 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. Let's talk.
We must not play politics with security.
Let's talk about the biggest conversations.
Made of trustworthy ideas.
Passionately connected
to everyone.
Let's talk.
Let's talk on Nigeria Info 95.1 Abuja.
Nigeria Info. It's all talk and more talk on Nigerian's #1 talk station.
This country needs a marshal, needs a sheriff.
In some particular societies, especially in my tradition, a woman is not allowed to inherit land.
Issues that get your attention.
This thing has been a carryover for the time of Jonathan.
Yeah.
And they continue these billions.
Your views against all odds.
My word is that why those households, why are they not following up their job? Like
The intense conversation.
It has to be given to her now based on sentiment. These are some of the challenges that women go through on a daily basis.
Okay, bro.
And that is
All and more on Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Looking to unwind? Kick up your feet and simply touch base with matters of the heart. Do you just need to talk to someone and unburden from the events of your day? You just might get your heart's desire.
Hello.
Tonight with Somi on 95.1 Nigeria Info, Abuja.
Thank you for being here to talk to me. Thank you. All right, welcome back from that quick break. It's still 95.1 Nigeria Info, and we're on tonight with Somi, and we're on the couch as well. We still have Coach Maisie here with us in the house, and my phone lines are buzzing, but I have to let him respond to some of the people who have called in already, and then we'll get back to the phone lines, okay? All right, over to you, Coach Maisie. First and foremost, let's not forget that we have the young lady who called in and said she needed a therapist. At the end of the show, I'm going to be sharing how you can contact Coach Maisie, just in case you want to take some of these conversations offline. But she's already shared something with us about some difficulty that she's experienced. So you want to respond to that? Please go ahead.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, that was the first caller.
Yes.
Lady, yeah? Yeah, and... she said something that made me chuckle a bit. She was like, at some point she felt attacked. I don't know if I heard that correctly. Yes, I can relate to what you're saying, because this is why I tell people you need therapy. You see, she said she was hearing some of these things for the first time. And then also mentioned how that she had some difficulty getting into a relationship and things like that. This is why, this is just a practical case of why self-awareness is a big deal. Because trust me, she could go on and on, just wondering there's a problem somewhere, or I don't know what's wrong, or maybe I have a problem, or people don't like me, but there are other underlying causes. There are root causes. So what I would say to her is, yes, like she rightly said, she would love to speak with a therapist. I would strongly encourage that. And Somi could share my contact with you so that we could discuss after now. Because the thing with therapy is that, what I do here on the couch is I try to give a blanket kind of solution, right? I just show you the general things. But when you speak with a therapist, it's more customized. So I'm able to ask you pertinent questions, and then we're able to, get to the root of the issue. So yeah, that's fine. I think you should just go ahead and share my contact with her after the show, so that we can take the conversation forward. So that's what I'll say about hers. But it's just further explaining the fact that these things, to a large extent, are far-reaching, in impacting our relationships as adults. And if you are not aware, you could just be carrying with you a baggage that dates as long as your birth, as long as your 2-year-old, as long as your 7-year-old self. You could be carrying baggages all the way from then, unknown to you. You see, so if there's any other person who feels like that, I want to strongly encourage that you seek the service of therapists. Now, she said something again. I just want to bring this up for the sake of others, about not being able to afford the service of therapists, right?
I'm glad you caught that. I'm very glad you caught that. I'm glad you caught that bit. I was going to bring you back to it.
Oh, yeah. So let me say it like this. I know that the first issue here, right, is value. A lot of people don't yet understand the value of therapy. That is why they are not able to budget for it or bring out funds for it. When they feel sick and they need to take medication, they are quick to go to the lab, run tests. They don't say, I don't quite have money. They will go and look for money and go and do tests so that they can get treated bodily, right? In some cases, go to the hospital, administer drugs and treatment and all that. So like I said, it's a thing of orientation and value. People really need to understand that the same way you would cater to your body is how you should cater to your mind. And if it would require you to invest in resources, including making payment for sessions, you need to know that that is a big deal. All right. By the way, a lot of physical ailments are also traced to an emotional source, an emotional state. And many people don't even know that. So these are some of the things that therapy will do for you. So I like to encourage people who say they don't have money for therapy. Please place the value of your mental development and your mental health higher. Raise wherever you have placed that value now, raise it higher. All right. Maybe it's still 2/10 on your grading scale. Please raise it higher to like 8/10. Right? When you see how important it is, then it won't be difficult to reach in and get out money to pay, because you really need the services. All right, let me just leave it at that.
Okay.
So for other people who are saying, so I don't have money, please, it's very important.
And I would add, and that's why we have on the couch segments here. So if there are things that, if there are things that, you've thought about it, and it's like you're at your breaking point and you want at least some first step sort of therapeutic session to sort of make you feel better. That's why we do this as well. So you can always send me an email and we'll see, hopefully, people have sent in messages and we're able to touch on quite a number of things and they were fine. And then the people who required further therapy will take it up from there. All right. So for the young lady who called in and she says, look, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I feel are the causes. So she talked about the kind of background that she grew up in. It's okay if you want to maybe ask a few more questions, okay? So you can call in or send messages. Let's touch on some specific areas that maybe can get you on the road to healing, okay? I don't want you to come away from this just... There's a place for self-awareness. There's a place for understanding why some of the things that are happening to you, and then there's a place of taking the step towards improving, having now armed yourself with that information and say, okay, now that I know that this is what caused this or this is who I am, how can I get out of it? And it's not usually a walk in the park. It's not usually a sprint. In some cases, it is a marathon. But here we're trying to get you to take that first step at least, okay? All right, then. Over to you, Coach Maisie. Do you want to touch on any other responses, or do we...
Yeah, there were two other people who spoke. Okay. Let me just speak to them.
All right, then. Go ahead.
Wise man said something about... in fact, he just nailed it. He mentioned self-awareness, emotional intelligence, mental health, and then spoke about faith.
Yes.
Yes, these are very fundamental, as a matter of fact. They're all connected, and these are very critical areas that also border on self-awareness at the end of the day. Because emotional intelligence is that's another full conversation of its own. All right. Emotional intelligence runs on the foundation of awareness first. So you need to even first know how you respond, so that you are able to use that knowledge to positively impact on your relationships with other people. You see, so that's why these things are just very fundamental. We cannot overemphasize them, and we cannot what's the expression? You can't overemphasize it. Basically, it's just that important. It's very rudimentary like that. Mental health and then faith. So yeah, I just wanted to thank him for that contribution. His was more like a contribution, and the more we have these sessions, we would take our time to talk about some of these things. As we're allowed to do so with time. He said something like a lot of people don't even know what they're doing in relationships. So true. A lot of people don't know about relationships. It's so true, you see. And this is why people really need to seek help, right? And then there was the third caller who said something about about a particular home where the father is when he gets to the house, everyone scampers and runs away, and everyone is scared and things like that. That's just an example for that explaining, what we were talking about. And how that those kind of people and those kind of the upbringing or the way they have raised their children has left in them those imprints, those subconscious programming that makes them have a skewed idea of what the family is supposed to be. So imagine a lady who grew up in that home being asked out by a guy who genuinely cares and is loving, she's not going to understand that, because what she understands as a father figure, as the father of the house, is that person who's harsh, who cannot be approached. Do you understand? Who you cannot stand in his presence. Who are you? Right? So you see that kind of person, by the time a loving young man is coming around her, she's going to wonder, this one is just too soft. I beg, I don't like this type.
This one is too soft.
Something like...
goodness me. I was reacting to the comment about this one being too soft. You know what you said. Some people, some ladies are like, I beg, it's some will say it's a function of trauma. You go through trauma or pain, and that's all you know. So when you see something that is even right, that is more of what is obtainable, you are repulsed by it. This one is too soft. I see. It's a ridiculous comment. Yeah.
So have you heard people say stuff like good girls being attracted to bad boys?
Yes.
Sometimes that's what's playing out.
Okay. I hear you, Coach Maisie. I hear you.
Express, to experience, to hang out, to go to the parties, to be with friends, right? They didn't have the opportunity because of that father figure that if I hear you, who is that boy? Who is that girl? So you say they are good girls. Now, in quote. But that figure that they saw in their dad, that is the kind of person that they will be at home with. Subconscious, they don't know this, because that's what they're familiar with. And then the brain will always gravitate you towards what you're familiar with. So you don't know this, but you will actually feel more comfortable with a man who treats you like that, the way your father used to behave, than with a guy who will treat you differently, who is more gentle, who is more loving. You see, so like you said, yes, it's actually part of the effects of trauma, as a matter of fact. I try not to talk about that just yet, because that's another very big school of thought. There's a lot to say there. So I try to completely leave out trauma and just play the bit on dysfunctions. Even though at the end of the day, some of those dysfunctional experiences, become traumatic. And how you know this is because of the impact it has on those people's behavior later on in life.
Okay.
You see, I think those are the three colors we had, and
yes.
I want to thank them for calling in, and I'm glad they enjoyed the conversation.
All right, then. We have another 15 minutes thereabouts to wrap up our session on the couch today, so I'm going to try and see if we can do a lot with the time we have. I see people are trying to call me, so let's take a few more calls, and then when we come back, we are going to be wrapping up on the conversation for today. Just in case you're wondering if we have answered any of your questions, or you feel like we haven't really touched on some things that you think would help you step into that, we'll do the best that we can, and then we'll definitely be picking up this conversation again next week, Tuesday. But let me get back to the phone lines. I'll take two more calls, and then we'll give Coach Maisie the chance to sort of bring today's part of the conversation to a close, okay? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening. Or good morning, rather.
Good evening.
Good morning. It's a new day.
Good morning, Coach Maisie.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. You're doing a very great job. I choose to remain anonymous.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead.
Hello?
I heard you. Go ahead.
The day before yesterday, thank you. The day before yesterday, something happened closer to my shop. You understand? A lady operating a POS shop. You understand? She a very young guy. We are keeping themselves, doing all manner of things in the shop. I just passed with bike. You understand? When I saw them, I passed. You understand? I later come back to the shop. I said, what are you people doing in the shop? You understand? In the public. Are you mad in the shop? And you're operating a POS shop. Look at what you're doing. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Understand? She was asking, what did that mean? When I found myself, when I found my face, she said that the people was just keeping quiet. She said that yes, I decided to take it so serious. Understand? She just kept quiet. I don't know. Am I right or wrong? I said that she's no more than 16 or 15 years age. You understand? So, Coach Nathan, I don't know if I'm right or wrong due to the manner and the way I approach them. You understand? So I don't know.
Okay, just hang on. Let Coach answer that. And just to be clear, exactly how far did they go with this display of affection?
I think for me is because the other shopping was operating. When I explained to my neighbor told me that she lost almost 50,000 naira. You understand? More 2 weeks ago. Somebody collected 50,000 naira. Why all this?
Okay. Coach is trying to answer your question.
Hello?
Yeah, Coach is trying to answer the question now.
This is Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
This is Nigeria Info.